Oh, what's up? Okay. Um, just we're gonna go off in a little poker tangent here. I just want to talk about poker for a moment tonight, because so many of you play cards, and the WSOP is right around the corner. So I'll just rant a little bit about what's happening in the world as I see it. I've traveled around a lot, and not to I can't put too fine a point on it, really. I mean, just everybody and their mother is limping in everywhere. I don't know what's going on. It's like a disease where everybody's just limping in. They're all limping. I met a guy around town who, whether he has kings, aces, ace king suited, 9 10 suited, fours, threes, deuces, he just limps every hand. I don't know what to tell you. The guy obviously eventually he loses all his chips. You can't play like this. What do you do? I was thinking about my ex girlfriend used to say, you want to play more hands against weaker players. So I was looking at some of the bottom of opening ranges, and I was studying the lowest end of across different um, blind structures and 20, 30, 40, 80, 100. And sometimes it's pretty loose. When you're playing deeper, it gets pretty loose. But the problem is, like, let's say you're 100 BB deep, and you want to open 8 10 suited UTG, and you get 5 callers. That's what's happening at tournaments like $400 up to $400, pretty much. If you get 5 callers, then you flop like a flush draw, you make your flush, and you get action from a fish, you're dead. You're dead. So I do think it's kind of important to have like more nut combos, and then like I mean you have to play these hands, and you have to play theoretically anyway, but um, you got like one guy will have like king deuce off, the other one will have 7 8, and the other guy will have like ace four suited, and then one guy has like pocket sixes, and like you're completely surrounded. Um, and if you're like my buddy here who just limps everything, he's just calling with ace king suited. So you really you don't know what to do in these like non theoretical games, you know, and you're gonna see that a lot this summer. You're gonna see a fuck ton of limping this summer, or any summer, or anywhere you are. You can be in Saskatchewan playing cards. You can be in Bangkok. You can be in fucking the Philippines, Cambodia. Uh, I mean, players are passive, players are aggressive. People play differently across uh, by country. You can categorize your meatballs by country. Um, I saw all kinds of crazy things in Spain. Um, it's funny that like even in chess, like you'll see that different um, cultures play chess sort of the way they live their lives. When I played chess in Mexico and poker mostly, I found a lot of the chess players were like slow builders, and that's the way Mexico is. Mexicans are pretty solid. The way they think is like, okay, I they're very practical. Like I found they just it's A followed by B, C, D. It's not too wild. They live their lives like they build their homes, like they're solid as fuck, you know, and they kind of get things done. It's like there's an empty space, and there's some Mexican men, and then a month later there's a house, you know, And that's the way they play their chess. It's like they're fiend shadowing their bishop. They're taking space. They're making sure all the squares are covered. They're not trying to give anything away. They don't want to hang anything. And then slowly but surely they build up a really good position and just roll you up. A lot of this good Mexican chess players. And the Mexican poker players a little bit different. Yeah, they they're building, but it's not the same kind of level somehow because I don't know. There's some spazzy Mexican player. In fact, I would say that something about cards and gambling in general, like the Mexicans have such a kind of a festive spirit that it does shine through in the poker games, and they do get a little more rambunctious when it comes to cards. But I think that's just kind of a I don't know because it's a sociable thing. Chess is a quiet solo thing, but when the it's a very festive culture. So when people get together, they tend to like party, and so that's how I feel is a small difference there. But there's a fuck ton of limping down there too. So across everywhere I go, I'm just seeing this disease, and so what do you do? And I've had a hard time figuring it out. I mean, because you're not going to get value that often, right? You sit and wait for value thinking that you're going to like pound them. But then, like, the other thing is they're petrified. So that people, like, you breathe on a pot and they give up. You know what I mean? Especially if you're sitting there waiting for nuts. That's not rocket science for anybody. So you sort of have to spaz it out, like super spaz it out with them for cheap. And then hopefully you don't have four snipers in every pod, or like, you know, today I was playing online and I flopped a couple of sets and I was very active. I was very active and I had a fuck ton of chips. And I was like, then I got some sets and they were just like evacuate. And I'm not changing sizes or anything. I'm using like uniform sizes, traditional, GTO style, and but a lot of these people are fit or folds. So when you have a large chunk of the board, or they kind of not thinking about grand distribution or anything. They just like, do I have something or not? Another thing that's weird is um, what advanced players will do. Like, let's say someone's sitting out in the big blind, like these then strong players, they get rabies for free money, you know. But what I've been noticing is people don't seem to care or notice that someone's sitting out or that someone's super short in the big blind. And when you're playing with normal people, they'll raise in like a traditional spot to steal in as an advanced player, but they just have a strong hand. They're not really aware that anything is going on around them, that they simply have a strong hand like every time. Like, I'm like, oh well, I'm just gonna like, 3-bet jam ace 9 here, and then they just show you, which is just because they're raising such a traditional steal spot, that but they always seem to like have a good hand. It's just another thing. When they're not limping in, if they're raising, right, they have something. It's not like playing a high roller. I played a 40K in a long time ago. It was a long time ago in London. It's like you expect all those people to have rabies, and they're just trying to rob everybody. And they're like, mixing mixing ranges and all kinds of stuff, traditional, you know, more advanced theories. But you can't expect to see any of that shit. And for instance, like you'll go to some fucking mystery bounty somewhere, and when good players play, man, they go after. Forget it. A guy like I played Martin Zamani. Forget about it. I mean, this guy just plays every hand for any amount. It doesn't matter what his cards are, man. For a bounty, this guy will go like walk the plank. Like he'll just go to Antarctica for a fucking bounty, you know. And he knocked me out in the Bahamas. Like I had Ace King suited in the big blind, and he knocked me out Queen 10 for like a very important hand. It was a super important hand, unfortunately. But people like that, they just go nuts, and I don't know how some people have this spazzy way, and they manage it. Like somehow they're like, I met another genius who was wonderful at playing like many hands. It just like could play so many hands and like make chips. And other people can't play like that. They don't understand like the combos and like future shock of weird runouts and things. There's something about controlling chaos. Some people have great ability to understand random elements, the random elements that they just kind of phase into uh, some blend of science and art. You know, my buddy Eric, I talked to him about poker sheets from online. I talked to him about poker in a taxi cab on the way to his first tournament, and he final tabled the tournament. You know, I just gave him a few pointers, and he final tabled the tournament. And like they chopped it four ways or something. I mean, he just has like this understanding of like random. You know, he's good at math and stuff. And I think math brain is really important. Notice some people have great math. Some people have phenomenal memories. I've met players that I mean I don't know how they have this elephant memory, man. They tell you the flop turn river from 10 years ago and the betting and everything. Those people are very dangerous. Very dangerous. So what do you do? What do you do when you have to see when you put up with these knuckleheads who, you know, have no idea what they're doing and they're splashing all around? And I've been having a hard time with them, to be honest. Like I can't find the right path. Now, I I, I talked to another ex girlfriend of mine about it. She's like a limit hold'em specialist, and she said that just point me to the game. So I kept asking her like, well, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? You just have to like. There were many articles written on this, by the way. One guy said like, yeah, you'll add a big blind to every limper that comes in, right? Because you're gonna be squeezing these people a ton. Problem is they don't fold anyway. So it's like you have to be very selective about your squeezing hands, and then when you squeeze them with the nice big hug, like how big? And guess what? One guy calls this, the guy figures he's getting odds, and then the other guy's like, well, I can't fold now because I'm getting these juicy odds. I'm not folding either. And then you end up with four or five callers, the same guys who limped in, and you're not getting rid of them for ten blinds, 11 blinds. I mean, you got to, and so now it's called like pain threshold, right? You think you're gonna find pain threshold? There is no threshold. There's no pain. They don't want to. The pain for them is to fold. They're not folding. They're not folding. So that means what do you have to do? You have to pound them with value. So I mean, it just have to be patient. I guess if they're playing that poorly, I mean that has to be the best strategy for people like that. You know, my friend Arkady says, don't do anything stupid. They're punting stacks. Let them punt. Just let him punt. I have so many poker stories, man. Back in the day, God. I used to be coming in at the World Series of Poker like 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. For a long time, I couldn't make a final table. And I was just getting so unlucky. Even at some of the final tables, like, I should have more bracelets because I like four-handed, like, what was it, three-handed in mixed hold'em. Like, I lost three hands in limit hold'em in a row with ace king twice. I got called all the way down with deuces by twice, and then like I Omaha High Low. I had Broadway with one to come. The guy had a flush draw, and he got there. That was gonna be for a monster. Was a monster pot because end games and limit structures. You're putting in these crazy, thousands of bets. You know what I mean? And like the denomination is so high, you're just sending it in and pray. Um, a mixed game. What was it? 8 game mix. Man, I like in the end game. Like I threw the wrong card out and it's triple draw. That was my stupidity. And another one, like I had a big stud hand with Horolenko, where we were like, I had aces with all the paint going to 7, and he had aces with all the rags and stud, and it's like, so I'm like a 3-1 favorite. I lost. And yeah, a lot of stuff happened in these tournaments. The main event, you know what I mean? I mean, I gotta lose with queens to ace queen on that day when I'm already the chip leader. And if I win that hand, this tournament's over. I would have been chip leader by a mile, and I would have just been raising. I was planning. I was like, okay, if I win this hand, I was already thinking. I was like, I'm gonna win this hand. It, you know, I'm going to be raising for the next hour and a half, like every hand. I was just gonna raise every hand for like the next hour and a half or 2 hours, and I don't care. I'm just gonna be just like everybody's gonna be. They're all paranoid, right? Because ICM it's a fucking disaster to get knocked out of this tournament. So, but I'm gonna have like the way I signed this to my friend who was allergic to bluffing. I said, look, you have a big stack now, right? When you get a big stack, I know that you're a knucklehead about bluffing. You don't want to bluff. You're too tight. So what you do, because he needs to science everything out, right? It's got to be science. Got to be science. So I said, okay, fine. Take a portion of your stack and assign that portion to bluffing. That's it. So I said, how much are you comfortable with giving it away? Because he doesn't want to give it away. He like went to business school and he's Jewish and like he just doesn't want to give it away. So I said, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take 20% of your glorious stack and just punt it off. That's it. Okay? That portion of your stack is for punting. And you'll see that the cards will work their magic. There's another element to people who understand this chaos business. You will punt and you will get lucky too sometimes. Like, you ever seen, oh, I was in a big hand with Eric Lindgren a long time ago. It was some limit tournament, right? So it's like some guy opens, some guy 3 bets. I have ace king suited. Like, what was it? Yeah, it's just like open, cold call, 3 bet, 4 bet Lindgren, right? And Lindgren had 9-10. And then he made a straight. And I was like, and that's when Lindgren was hot. Lindgren was hot at that point. He was winning everything and he was very talented, and he's one of those weird guys with a strange memory. If I'm right, I think so. And so I never. I mean, that was not good, but it worked. His timing was impeccable. But you wouldn't see that like um, playing some short sessions of high stakes limit hold'em. I used to play Mizrachi, 150, 300. We were playing some shorthanded, and then I played. Used to play 10-20 limit hold'em with Scotty Wynn, long time ago on True Poker, believe it or not. And we talked about it too. And it's funny, like we played 10-20 limit hold'em on True Poker, and then he was in that 40K tournament in London where we were like on the close to the bubble, and then it was like we were both like kind of spazzing it out, and then we got to river, and like we both decided to give up. We had the same hand, and it was like we were laughing because we used to play, and then Master Men Win played a lot with him too. And strange, another elephant mind was T.J. Cloutier. T.J. Cloutier is the top example of elephant brain that you will know. You say, well, how is T.J. Cloutier? If you look at his resume, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how many tournaments the guy won or second place and whatnot. And the reason is he could remember everything. He told me, Hans, that we played from back in the day, every street and all the stacks and everybody around and who was there, and he was just. And I said, "Wow." And he wasn't a tight player either. He was a loose player. Even as an old man, he was loose. But some people have. One guy I thought was a fish the first time I met him, and then until I didn't know anything, and then I realized that the guy was just a genius of chaos. Was the Dan Heimiller. I said, well, how is he doing this? I said, what? This doesn't look right. I said, I said, these moves don't make any sense. Another guy who played very, very strange, and I could never understand how he was winning, was what is this Italian pro? Uh, he was winning everything. He's a really nice guy. He was just hanging out with Ari Engel for a while, and I thought he was a really nice guy. I always liked him. Um, God, I can't remember his name, but he won like a bunch of WPTs in a year, and then yeah, he has a lot of victories. And but I couldn't understand how the hell he was playing. Or to some people, I just don't get it. You know, Ivy, I got Ivy. I played with Ivy like I don't know. We sat together maybe 12 times through the years or something, and I thought there was something odd about him. That that he wasn't technically perfect, but you could feel that you were in the presence of uh, high level intellect. Like you could feel the power. You could feel the power. Like you're just saying, the guy was focused and he was not bashful at all. Like he blew me out of some pots, man. I was like, oh, I was so sick to my stomach one day when he blew me out of an Omaha hand, and I was like, forgot I had the correct blocker, and I just was focused too much on. I just lost my mind, and I made this lay down, and then after I folded, I just like looked at my cards, and I was like, oh my god, this eight is important, and I just forgot that had I noticed the card, I would never fold. It was so bad. But he had the ability to do that. He did that to so many people. At all the times that I sat with him, I noticed that he was able to put major heat on everybody, and sort of was very aware of the circumstances. Nah, he was great. And the most unpleasant player I ever played with, well, but I mean, he was an unpleasant person, but he was very unpleasant to play no limit hold'em with because he would sit there for like a minute and a half or something. He would just sit there, and you'd make a move, right? And he would just sit there and he'd look around. And he was like gazing off into the solar system, and then he would say, "Raise." He'd like wait 60 seconds, and then he'd sit there and he'd go, "That's David Pham, David the Dragon Pham." He was sick, dude. It was so many times. I swear to you, how many times I was in a pot and he was just like gaze out into the sunset or wherever he was. I don't know where he was, or if he was on mushrooms or mescaline or something, but wherever he went, when he came back, he said, "Race, race," and he would just grab the stacks and put them out there, and you do it to everybody. And there's nothing worse than having a tank like razor. There's like nothing worse than sitting with a guy who sits there for 45 seconds on every decision, and then tells you he looks and he goes, "Raise. I raise." You raise? You raise again? You want to raise? That was an unpleasant one. And then the real hell when I played my first 10K at the Taj Mahal. And I've got a table full of psychopaths, and they're all pros, right? I remember Ted Forrest, David Pham, two other guys who were very good, and I forget who they were. but they're all raising like nine, like nonstop. It's like the first time it's just like they won't stop. These people, they won't stop. They're going ape shit. They don't care. It's 10K tournament. It's nothing for them. It's my first 10K. So I'm sitting there and I'm stuck 30%, right off the top, and I finally flop a set, and like I'm in a bunch of hands. Like I'm stuck 30%. I'm not like not playing a ton of hands, and then they all have rabies until I flop a set, and then it's like I breathe on the pot, and it's like they all look at it and they just fold. Fun times. Wow. One. Wow. Poker's weird. Go to sleep under the tables. I'd find a table with a tablecloth in the casino. I'd find some random room in a banquet hall or something, and I'd just like pass out and go to sleep and wake up and go back to the table. Another time I fell asleep in the Bellagio bathroom, and I woke up and like my ass is like halfway down the bowl. I can't move, and my legs are paralyzed because I've been like passed out. God knows how long. So I like push myself off this bowl and like down on the floor. I get the blood, wait until the blood like filters back into my legs, and like I get up and crawl out of there. I'm a total mess. So I don't know. I think I probably lost probably some bad sessions. Had some tough sessions. The first time I went to the West Coast, I got murdered. The East Coast was soft as hell. It was like so soft. The East Coast was so soft compared to the West Coast. I went to the West Coast the first time. It was bad. This was like just got rolled up in cash games. Everybody's like five betting king four suited and stuff, and I wasn't used to that. And the East Coast people were soft. Even D-Negs talked about this a long time ago. He was like, yeah, for some reason, like supposedly, the tough guy thing from New York is like not at the poker tables. It's just everybody's a knit. They're just like knitting it up. They don't be afraid. And West Coast is running gun. West Coast is running gun. The way they drive in LA, it's like you have to have a good car. Or you just get killed. They just roll you off the road. The same way they play cards. And plus, there's a lot of money there. They're just like, I think a lot of people like to gamble. It was very different. And that trip was like I jumped ship with Gus Hansen. We had met on the ship, and it was a party poker cruise, and I won a satellite for the party poker cruise, which was a limit hold'em tournament. I saw Ali Najad on that ship. I'm pretty sure it was Ali Najad, and he was dancing up a storm. I mean, that guy could move. You don't know Ali Najad can move, man. That kid can really dance. So I was meeting all these people. David Benjamin was there, I believe. Uh, anyway, so Gussie and I got busted out fast. So I like we were playing backgammon. Arkady, my brother, basically is like sets sets this prop up, for Gus because they're like top backgammon players, right? So he says, "I got this position. You try to hustle Gus," but we had the wrong side, and I'm betting on the side, and I went for my lungs, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Well, I'm losing 4,000. Now I'm going to the West Coast. We Gus bust the tournament. We are all out of there, right?" And I said, "Let's jump ship. It's spring break in Cabo." So we jump ship, and we're going out there, and Gus was on WPT all the time. So all these women are like all over Gus at the beach, and it was disgusting. That was a crazy trip. And we went to this El Squid Row. We were dancing. It was techno and bikinis mm, and then I went to LA and Vegas, and I got murdered. I was playing loose 40-80 games, and I got murdered. That was one of the first times I went broke after building up a role on the East Coast. And I was like, I'm going to go to the West Coast. I'm going to be a big star. And then I got my ass kicked. until like you learn how to switch gears and understand that these people are nuts and you have to like adjust your distribution, so you're just gonna get murdered. And then I went on some big winning streaks. I went on some big winning streaks, and I learned how to play in those games. But you have to learn, and this the only way is to get murdered. Um, I don't know what to do. I don't play too much anymore. I play a little bit, and I do like to study because it's a nerd thing. I play XG Gammon quite often. That's for backgammon practice, just in case. Because Arkady, he's a grandmaster, and sometimes he has to like take a piss, and I'm sitting there, and I have to come in and play a couple of games to keep the fish entertained, and I have to be able to defend myself. So I do practice, and I play all right. I'm like a six, which is good enough. These guys are like top pros and grandmasters that play between 2 and 4. This is an XG rating. It's like a well-known backgammon system, and so it's like six is like good enough, like expert strength or something. And uh, and then poker, I practiced the GTO, and like my best session in that is like I played like 2 hours at like 91% or something. That was like the best session I had. And then I would, whatever, you make a blunder here. Very rarely will I get blunder at this point. You get some mistakes and some inaccuracies, mostly inaccuracies. But you cannot play perfect GTO. You won't do it. And it's like Ben Roll, who I have a lot of respect for, and I think he's probably like the best. And these guys like Jordan Drummond, he's great too. But you can't. If I had to pay takes, if you let's say you have a super good 5'10" winning player, or he's like a winning player at 5'10", a young guy, like 21, 22 years old, and he doesn't play tournament poker, but he's like winning 5'10" player, and you give him to Jordan Drummond for like or Ben Roll for 3 years of intense coaching, they'd be world class. They'd be world class with pads, or one of these cats that are like really good and understand the why. But Ben CB doesn't really like GTO that much, and he making millions. I'll tell you a couple of key things. My buddy has got more cashes than anybody else in the world, but he's not making much. He's not making much profit. You can't play that style. It's like he's in the money. He's in the money like 26%. It's ridiculous. It's stupid how many times this guy cashes. I don't know what it is. It's maybe not 26, but it could be in the 24 zone, which is too high. Ben CB's in the money 14% of the time, and his ROI is astronomical. You got to be playing for first place. You got to be if you're cashing too many tournaments, you're not doing it right. That's a fact. So Ben Roll has figured out the correct way to make money. And it's totally different and that's funny because if you looked at hand histories between geniuses at the highest levels, they have different styles, which means there's a lot of ways to skin a cat in this pokerverse. A lot of different ways, you know? Like you can have this crazy memory, you can have these tactical minds, you can have these solid positional players, you can have um, you know, exploits. I don't know. It's a very deep game, that's for sure. It's very deep. It's totally different from chess. Totally different. Chess, you just have to look as far ahead as humanly possible. Chess, you go down the tree. Although, and even there, you have these big calculators like Emil Sotovsky, right? This is a guy, Sotovsky is president of FIDE, right? You don't know about Emil Sutovsky. He would do informant games, and they'd have yards of analysis, just tons and tons and tons of analysis on a Sutovsky variation. The guy sees a lot of fucking shit in a chess game, man, a lot. And then the Hubners and these people, they were like 4 pages of analysis in the informant. And then Magnus, who comes along and is better than everybody, and he says, "Well, I know that he sees a lot. I mean, he's trying to play. He's like play it down. He sees a lot. He sees a lot. And he sees pretty far ahead too. But he says mostly he's micromanaging, and he sees like tries to look 4 or 5 ahead, and then make his positional assessments and carry on from there. And it's like he has kind of better understanding of where this game is headed and what the position looks like and four moves ahead." And he says, "Yeah, I'm like, this is good for me. Yeah, I can see a clear path moving forward." Very different from Kasparov, right? Kasparov is sitting there and he's like banging his head against the wall, calculating every variation to the end. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat in all these different games. Um, and then again, like you have to tailor your stuff to your opponents, right? What class of player are you playing? Because let's say Gus Hansen, who's one of the best backgammon players of all time, he's also a great poker player. He's much better than you, and and me. Like he's even though he got murdered by the cream of the crop, like you have to understand who he's playing against. And then I don't know if everything was kosher either. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But the guy's a big genius. And when he would play backgammon with player, you could tell that he's taking into account the level of competition, whether he can build a back game against a player who's going to make a ton of mistakes in a situation, just make it more tactical right away. You're going to slot more checkers and give your opponents more opportunities to blunder than playing like a very classical way against a super strong player. You would just like try to find the best move every time. Or you can super spaz it out against Meatball and like create murky situations where you have a big cube advantage. Because you might be able like to trick someone by creating an imbalance and then cubing, or like they scoop something up that they're not supposed to, and they don't know because it's very murky. But Gus will know. You know what I mean? So it's like it's the same thing. It's the same thing with cards. You know, there's like some people just know what to do. Like Deeb, like Sean Deeb is not a a game theory guy. There, you could look at all the cats. Bryn Kenny. I mean, I'm sure they've looked at shit, but they play their own way. They play their own way. Bryn Kenny was playing in the 100 rebuy. We had all the guys that I came out of the 100 rebuy were great. Like Justin Bonomo was a good guy. Bryn Kenny was in there. You had Hastings was in there. Sheets, Johnny Back, Cliff Josephy, right? You had Eric Haber in there. You had the guys who were playing uh, every day. Uh, what was this guy? West. The dude, the Irish guy who moved to Ireland. Where is he from? I forget his name. A bunch of the high rollers. Kuhn was in the. Everybody who came out of the 100 rebuy ended up in the high rollers. Chidwick was in there. Stevie 444. Ape Styles. They were all in the 100 rebuy and stars. All of them came out of it. The whole group. The whole group. And if you're winning that tournament, Annette was playing in the 100. Chad Batista, who passed away, he was a nice guy. Passed away because they took away online poker, and he drank himself to death because he was depressed. You imagine this? The land of the free. Can they bring online poker back to the United States? And what's up with WSOP, this website? Where's the stud? Where's the mix games? Where are the horse tournaments? You have to add them. That's not a big ask. They're uh, they're casting away um, a huge amount of players, especially seniors, who sit at home would love to play horse in their house, and they can't play. They don't want to play no limit hold'em. You want to play limit games. Why do you lock them out? They don't want to play pot limit Oman and big bet games. They want to play small bet games. I want to play small bet games. I'm an old man. I'm ready to play some. I love a nice horse tournament. I like mixed game, 8 game. That was why Stars was the best. Stars were the best. We have 8 game, 8 game mix. Saturday was a $215 horse tournament. It was great. No, poker used to be amazing, man, back in the day. It was incredible. And then all these idiots decided they were going to teach the pub. Seidel's the smart one. Seidel's like, I'm not showing my cards. Seidel's the smart one. You know Seidel's the smartest. He didn't want to show anybody how to play cards. You got all these monkeys running around, and you have to do it now. You have to do it, or you're drawing stone cold dead. But all these monkeys, and I like a lot of them that teach, they're entertaining. But at the same time, they made a big mistake. They made a big mistake. It was better to leave the fish pool as it was. Leave the fish pool intact. Don't teach anybody anything. And your bread and butter is to go there and just make sure that stacks are just, when people enter tournaments, they don't understand their stack is already gone. Your stack's gone. They don't know it though. Leave them. Leave 15. You know, you got a tournament with 100 people. 15 dead stacks, whatever already. God, maybe it was back in the day with 100 people in a tournament. You might say that 70% of them stacks were dead already. Not anymore. It used to be I go to a table at the World Series of Poker. It was like I could expect to see maybe two decent players at a table, two like analytical people that were like, you know, students. Now you'd be lucky to find, uh, I don't know, you might have 3 fish in it at a table, or two or three. Stone cold. Stone cold fish. That's what you want. And in gambling, with the level of variance in poker, you really want more fish. Because it's not. My mentor, my first poker teacher, used to say, man, you want a stone cold fish at your table if you want to make money. You want a table full of stone cold fish. Stone cold fish. You want stone cold fish. It's like, it's like you want Helen Keller at your table, man. You know what I mean? You can't beat these people because of the, you know what I mean? You don't have that big of an edge, you fucking moron. You used to say, you fucking moron, you don't have that big of an edge. I'm like, but I'm seeing that everybody's terrible. I don't know how to play poker. I'm just going to the tables and it's like, everybody's terrible. I know everybody's terrible. I'm just a simple chess player. But I can see that with the bare minimum knowledge that I had in the early days, we'll just play like decent cards and like wait and then be very aggressive when you have things and sit there and watch all these people punting with all kinds of bad cards and just like not to be too scientific about it. They played a lot of bad cards and they played them from any position. So you would sit there patiently and then pick them off and play and pound the value, and you would just walk in home at 6 in the morning with a pocket full of money. And he said, but the moment that people get too good, it gets very hard. Now, My friend likes to say you are what your expectation is. So nowadays, in the old days, maybe you could have an ROI of like 40%, maybe 50. I don't know what they were. But nowadays, if your ROI is going to be like 10% or 15%, that means you need, like, let's say it's 10%. You need $1 million in buy-ins to have a reasonable life. You're going to make 100 G's. And that's hard to live on in America, especially at $6 a gallon. And food, you go out for a piece of salmon and an iced tea, and it's like $70. You know what I mean? You want to go out for sushi dinner, you want a bottle of sake, you want to live well, be prepared to pay. And if you don't have a crazy amount of buy-in money to sustain that lifestyle, you got no chance of living in America. No chance. That's why you move to Southeast Asia, or or South America. Bolivia is nice. Bolivia is nice. Like, if you got to be prepared to fail in this thing. You have to have a backup plan. Bolivia is a good backup plan, you know, because you can do a lot of drugs, and you don't have to rent like 200 a month, and you can play online. Um, you have to be prepared to suffer. For real, poker is not a rosy thing. You sit there and you see the final tables on TV. You don't see what you don't see is them sitting on your you sitting on your balls overnight from 7:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning, playing 4-8 limit hold'em with Bobby G. If they had Player of the Year, they'd have 12 pictures of Bobby G on the wall. That's what you need. Okay, that's what it is. It's 12 hours overnight sitting on your nuts, going home and kiss your wife. She's going to work. And you go to the gym and you try to be maintain. You have your blueberry shake. You go to the gym when you wake up. She comes home from work. You give her, do it, whatever. And then you go off to the poker room again. And you do it again overnight, sitting on your nuts, sweating your balls off, listening to bullshit, bad jokes, people fighting. Occasionally, someone hits someone with a chair. And you don't see any of that. That's what it is. You see people on WPT hooting and hollering, smiling, because they're all at the final table. But that's the reality of the real world. In the real world, you're going to be getting your 10% ROI on sweaty nuts. It's not easy at all. It's really tough. And if you're lucky, you run off the table and you bust and you have $100 bill in your pocket and you go to the slot machine and you try to get your money back. But mostly you just lose it. You lose that too. And then you got to go talk to your girlfriend about it until you make a score. Until you make a score. But now it's much harder to make a score, you see. So that's a little bit about poker. So good luck to you.